March 1st, 2012 was one of those deceptively beautiful afternoons in Kentucky. Clear skies, strong sun, perfect temperature, everything looked harmless. That was the kind of day 8 teenagers and their teacher picked to go on a guided cave tour. Their destination? Hidden River Cave. The plan was to spend 3 hours exploring rarely seen parts of the cave system. What none of them could have imagined was that this cool geology field trip was about to become the most terrifying experience of their lives. Hidden River Cave is tucked away in Horse Cave, Kentucky, and it's far from your typical tourist spot. Hidden River Cave used to be a source of drinking water and hydroelectric power for the town, but after years of sewage pollution, both from homes and industry, it was shut down in 1943. For the next 50 years, the cave basically sat there abandoned, with toxic fumes pouring out of the entrance during the summer. It wasn't until the 1990s, when a new sewage system was put in place and the American Cave Conservation Association stepped in, that the cave started to recover. By 1992, they opened the American Cave Museum, and the cave was finally reopened to the public. Today, it's a popular tourist spot and educational site, and one of the biggest cave restoration success stories in the US. We're talking about a massive underground system that stretches for miles beneath the earth, with narrow tunnels that lead deeper and deeper into complete darkness. The name comes from a river that runs far below, hidden from the surface world. Most of the kids had probably never done anything close to real cave exploration before. Their teacher was pumped though. He had set this trip up as a hands-on way to teach geology and how underground ecosystems work. Everyone had their headlamps on, some basic safety gear, and an innocent confidence powered by the perfect weather outside. With each step, they left the surface world behind and entered a totally different reality. The inside of the cave was like a wet, winding maze, taking them through tight tunnels and giant chambers. The temperature underground was steady and cool. About 1.5 miles in, they were completely cut off. No phone signal, no sound from outside, nothing. The only thing they could count on was their guide and their own preparation. Meanwhile, up above, nature was starting to turn ugly. As the group explored deeper chambers, storm clouds started gathering fast. What formed overhead wasn't just any storm, but a supercell, the kind that dumps a ridiculous amount of water in a very short time. It started with a few unnoticed raindrops, but within minutes it became a violent downpour. Streams overflowed, low areas flooded, and soon everything was being swallowed up by rushing water. Down in the cave, the group had no idea what was happening. They were still looking at rock formations and learning about cave wildlife, completely unaware that millions of gallons of water were now pouring into the cave entrance. Hidden River Cave's underground river system acts like a drain for surface water. Normally, that's what creates the calm, scenic streams inside. But when a storm like this hits, those same waterways become deadly flood paths. Outside the cave, David Foster, the director of Hidden River Cave, and the guide responsible for the group were keeping an eye on the weather. At first, it looked like just another rainstorm, but then things escalated quickly. The peaceful underground river they knew so well had turned into something terrifying. They started measuring the water level. It was rising fast, 1 foot, 2 feet, while still climbing. Underground floods work differently from surface floods. There's nowhere for the water to spread out, so it gets forced through the cave tunnels with insane power. Foster and the guide had to make a call. Should they wait and hope the group found a safe high point, or act immediately? They knew the cave layout by heart, and they also knew there weren't many safe spots that deep in. Waiting wasn't an option. With no time to lose, they grabbed emergency gear and entered the cave, now partially underwater. Walking through a flooding cave is like trying to cross a horizontal waterfall. The current pushes hard, and one slip could drag someone into a dangerous passage. They moved by feel, gripping the rock walls and ceiling edges, often chest deep in freezing, muddy water. The group was starting to sense that something was wrong. That small trickle they'd been following was now a raging river. The quiet, dripping sounds had turned into a deafening roar. When they tried to retrace their steps, it was already too late. Water had flooded their exit, The kids and their teacher climbed onto a slightly raised area, clinging together, watching the water climb higher and higher. Some cried. Others just froze. The teacher tried to stay calm and organize everyone, but the situation was clearly life-threatening. Even if the rain stopped right then, it could take hours or even days for the water to drain enough to get out safely. They pressed themselves against the highest part of the rock wall. What had started at ankle level quickly reached their knees, then their waists. In such tight space, just a few more inches could mean the difference between surviving and drowning. Foster and the guide, using every bit of knowledge they had about the cave, guessed where the group might have taken shelter. At each fork, they made quick decisions based on the original tour path. After an exhausting search, they finally found them. 9 people soaked, freezing, and terrified, clinging to the walls. The teacher was doing his best to keep the group calm, but you could tell he was just trying to calculate how much longer they could hold out. Going back the same way was out of the question. That route was completely underwater. But the guide had a card up his sleeve. There were lesser-known side passages that led to higher ground. He tied a rope around himself and told everyone to hang on tight. What followed was a terrifying journey through flooded, narrow tunnels. They alternated between walking in chest-deep water and swimming through completely submerged sections. The secret path required squeezing through body-sized gaps, scrambling up slick rock faces, and crawling through tight spaces where the ceiling nearly touched the floor. Several times, one of the kids would slip and almost get swept away by the current, but the rope kept them together. The water was freezing, full of debris and branches dragged in from outside, making the trek even more dangerous. Every single step felt like a fight against something trying to pull them deeper into the dark. Eventually, after what felt like hours, they made it to a higher level the flood hadn't reached. From there, they followed dry paths toward a secondary exit, one that hadn't been affected by the main flood. When they finally made it back to the surface, they were exhausted, freezing, and emotionally wrecked, but alive. All 9 of them survived what could have easily turned into a nightmare headline. Some collapsed into the muddy ground, crying. Others were just in total shock, unable to say a word. The storm was finally calming down, but Hidden River Cave would stay flooded for days. The main paths they had used earlier were still completely underwater. It became obvious that the decision to take that hidden route was the only reason those 9 people made it out. Honestly, these kids would have been done for if it weren't for David and the guide. This story actually reminded me of another famous one that happened in Thailand. But anyway, I'm grateful every day that caving is totally optional. How about you? Have you thanked your lucky stars for that today? If you thought that this story was intense, wait until you see the one popping up on your screen right now. That one also started out as a fun little adventure, but it ended way worse. Make sure to hit like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. It helps me out more than you know. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.